Okay. What's going on, people? It's your boy Brandon Brevon Towns, host of that show called Sports Plus Life. Y'all already know what's going down today, man. It's been a trip. So guess what? Turn it off, turn it all the way off. Yeah. All right. How's everybody doing today? Please allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Brandon Brevon Towns. This is, again, Sports Plus Life, that sports podcast that talks about all the necessary events in sports as well as life, because it is 2020. And 2020 has been, it's been some stuff. I mean, I just hope everybody is doing all right, doing good. We got to check on each other, man. We got to check on each other and make sure everybody good, because this year is just a trip. It's been a trip. But right now it is 78 degrees in the Richmond, VA, and it is Wednesday, September 2nd, 2020. I mean, for real. And school is next week. My kids won't be going back physically. They'll be going virtually. My son will be going virtually. And that's how Henrico County's doing that thing there for at least the first 9 weeks now. When I was out delivering yesterday, I was out in Mechanicsville area around Atlee High School. And I tell you, around that whole area, it's just like business as usual. It's like everything is totally going back to normal. They haven't, school is reopening up. All of the restaurants are, even fast food spots, you can go in there and eat. Like, it's just, of course, mask required. But it's just like business as usual. So, but yeah, we got to get into some stuff today. So, without further ado, let's get to it. Okay, now before I get into the sports side of things, I just have to touch on a little life. And I tell you, 2020 has just been the year that just keeps on taking. And by the way, I am on IG Live right now. But 2020 has just been the year that keeps on taking. Now, the older you get, the more you're blessed to live a long life. There's going to come a point in life where you start losing things more than gaining things. That's just life. That's life. But it's just been a trip because over the past couple days, well, at least over the past weekend, we've lost a lot, particularly the black community. We've lost a whole lot. We lost Chadwick Boseman. I want to say it was Friday. Black Panther, man. And then Monday, we lost legendary coach John Thompson, who was the legendary coach for the Georgetown Hoyas, who was a powerhouse back in the 80s and early 90s. And of course, he coached such players as Patrick Ewing, David Wingate, Reggie Williams, Dikembe Mutombo, Alonzo Mourning, and of course, Allen Iverson. But I'm going to start with Chadwick Boseman first. I mean, he was 42, about to be 43 in November. And he died from colon cancer after having a 4-year bout with it. They say he was diagnosed in 2016 and nobody never knew. He didn't say anything. It was just a well-kept secret, which leads me to believe that he was surrounding himself with the right people, because, he had risen up to prominence as one of, if not the biggest actor in the world. And for information like that to not even so much as leak, and it just, kind of like Kobe Bryant's death, it was just such a gut punch because we didn't see it coming. We really did not see it coming, and it's just something that we have to deal with. But you look at the mark that he made, and he hadn't even been mainstream as far as movies, not even for 10 years. I think his first actual appearance in a movie was, 2012. And then he got the lead role for Jackie Robinson in 42 in 2013. And, the impact that he made was so great over this 7-year period between playing Jackie Robinson and then after that James Brown. And then after that for another biopic, Thurgood Marshall. And also he played the character Vontae Mack on Draft Day, which was one of my favorite characters. Then he had the movie that just came out, The Five Bloods, the Spike Lee movie on Netflix. And then of course, need I say anything about the Black Panther? I mean, that movie was such, a cultural game changer. The first mainstream movie that wasn't just considered, it's a black movie just because it had about a 90% black cast. It was a work of art. And to see Black Panther in 4 different Marvel movies, starting with Captain America Civil War, then going to his own, the Black Panther, then in Avengers, Infinity Wars, and Endgame, and however short in Endgame because he came in the final scene. But I don't know about you guys, but Infinity Wars, when Thanos did the snap and he disappeared, I was pissed. I was like, hold up. Wait a minute. We finally got one. We finally got a black superhero, and now he's got to turn to dust. Needless to say, I was very hyped when Captain America is getting his ass whipped and he's saying, hey, I'm Captain America. I'll take you all on. And then on your left, and even though that was from Sam, the circle appears on your left, and who walks out first? Black Panther. Oh, that moment just gave me chills. It still gives me chills. And to think that, and think he did his own stunts, to think that he did all of that stuff, all of it, in a 4-year period with cancer. And then you would see him in a couple of interviews and he would look skinny. And what do people like to do? People like to troll all the time. People like to make assumptions. Oh, he must be on drugs. He must be on crack or something like that. That Hollywood life getting to him. See, this is why you can't assume anything, because you don't know what somebody else is going through. When I saw him getting skinny, I thought maybe he was, preparing for a role. I mean, because remember when 50 Cent had a role and he had to lose a lot of weight? Well, nobody saying he was on crack or nothing like that. But he kept it so hush-hush. And his family kept it so hush-hush. And I can only imagine it's, every time, he had a big shining moment, I can only imagine how bittersweet it must have felt for his wife and his family. Knowing that there's a big chance that he may lose this battle, and eventually, unfortunately, he did, but the legacy that he left was so great, so powerful. Long live the king. Long live the king. Your movies will never, ever be forgotten. Ever. And it was just a sad day. Like I said, 2020 has been the year that keeps on taking. Chadwick, Wakanda forever, brother. And now on to Coach John Thompson. Now, Coach John Thompson, I don't really know what he passed from yet. But he was 78 years old. And oddly enough, today is his birthday. Happy birthday, Coach. And definitely rest in paradise. He passed 2 days ago. And he was, of course, the legendary coach of the Georgetown Hoyas. Big guy, 6'10", famously known for having a towel over his shoulder because he was a sweater during the game. Like I said, 6'10", played a couple years in the NBA for the Boston Celtics at the time when the Celtics, the Celtic dynasty was at its height. He backed up Bill Russell for a couple of years. Was a part of the original expansion draft of the Chicago Bulls, oddly enough, but he never played for the Bulls. That's when he decided to go into coaching, and what a move it was. He spent 27 years at Georgetown. He was the first black coach to win a national championship. And and like I said, his teams in the early to mid 80s and late 80s, and I believe his last truly great team was Allen Iverson's last year there, when they had Victor Page, Jerome, his nickname was the Junkyard Dog, I think Jerome Williams, Othella Harrington, and of course AI. But the guys he coached in the years of true dominance, Patrick Ewing, Sleepy Floyd, and David Wingate. And then moving on there to having Dikembe Mutombo and Alonzo Mourning. I was on YouTube, and a game popped up on my screen. The 1991 NCAA tournament, UNLV versus Georgetown. Now, Georgetown was, I believe, they were 8 or 9 seed. UNLV was number 1. They were undefeated at the time. But I was like, look at the dudes who are in this game. Like Georgetown, you got Mutombo and Mourning, and UNLV, you got Larry Johnson, Stacey Augmon, Greg Anthony. I'm like, look at the guys who was in this game. Boy, and at the time when college basketball was so fun because people stayed, they were recognizable. The one and done thing was not the thing to do. It rarely happened. Rarely. But Coach Thompson, again, was the first black coach to win an NCAA championship. And the thing that's even greater about that is he coached at Georgetown for 27 years. 97% of the men that he coached finished school and graduated with a college degree. Stayed all 4 years and finished with a college degree. Because he set up a system for these kids in Washington, D.C. that, were good basketball players, but really didn't see the value in school outside of hooping. Set up a program where they would graduate and have a college degree. And was a rebel in his own right, because he walked off the court famously in a game versus Boston College over Proposition 48, which would have, don't know if I'm totally correct, but it would have, made it very hard, if damn near impossible, for these players to get educations, to get accepted into college. And he protested. He walked off. We give such a round of applause for what the Milwaukee Bucks did when they boycotted after the police shooting of Jacob Blake, and rightfully so. But there are a few people in history that are just beyond their time, and I know he only had, the one NCAA tournament, but what he meant was so much more. Think about that. 27 years, 97% of your athletes stayed all 4 years and graduated. 27 years, 97%. That's amazing. He's one of those rare people where if you saw him, and I never met him in person, but I can only imagine, there's some people who are, they're famous celebrities, they were great, blah, blah. But there's some people you literally see an aura around them. I believe that was John Thompson. I do. And was a G, too. Straight up, had a meeting with the biggest kingpin in D.C. at the time, Rayful Edmond, if you've never heard of him. To make a long story short, Rayful Edmond was the real life Nino Brown, if you've ever seen New Jack City. And because Rayful Edmond, like I said, was a kingpin, loved Georgetown basketball, was getting chummy, a little too chummy with some of his players, one of them including Alonzo Mourning. And Coach Thompson told him, said, hey, look, you either stay away from my players or there's going to be some major consequences. Period. Because basically what he was saying is, not on my watch are my players going to be connected with you. Not on my watch. Hell no. You made your choice in life. You do whatever you do. But these kids are on my watch. They're my responsibility. Beat it. Beat it. Get out of here. Leave my players alone or else. And the story on that is that he's the only person to stand up to Rayful Edmond, and there had been no retaliation. And no harm came to him because he was John effing Thompson. And he demanded respect, and he got respect. And of course, he went on to cover the NBA, being a commentator. And, as a student of sports, there's certain people that I always enjoy listening to from each genre of sports. When it comes to football, I love listening to John Madden when he was commentating because you get so much knowledge from the game. Tony Romo is actually pretty good as well when it comes to really explaining the X and O's of the game. In basketball, Hubie Brown to me was like the John Madden of basketball. Okay. Yes, that's what Hubie Brown was to me. He was like the John Madden of basketball because he explained the X's and O's of the game so well, just like John Thompson did. And just like when I watch boxing, I love listening to Larry Merchant because, he was such a historian, and as well as Roy Jones Jr. Roy Jones Jr. Now, you'll get your ass whipped when you step in that ring with Mike, maybe. But yeah, so Coach Thompson was just something special. He was something special. And again, happy birthday, Coach. Happy birthday, Coach. And definite condolences to your family. And hey, Heaven's got a great new coach. And also, we lost Clifford Robinson, former All-Star, most notably with the Portland Trailblazers. I mean, like I said, 2020 has just been rough, man. It's been rough particularly when it comes to the black community. Another great college coach that passed also this past weekend was Lute Olson as well. 85 years old, Hall of Fame coach for the Arizona Wildcats. But all right, now I can go ahead and transition into the sports realm of things. I'll start with the NBA. It was a Game 7 on yesterday between the Denver Nuggets and the Utah Jazz. Now, the Utah Jazz had a 3-1 lead in this series. Now, that to me, that was the most exciting series because watching Jamal Murray and Donovan Mitchell just throw haymakers at each other, figuratively. One dropped a 50-point game, the other dropped a 50-point game, 40-point game, the other dropped. It was real. It reminded me of 2001 with Vince Carter and Allen Iverson, when the Raptors and the 76ers were just going at it. Vince and AI were just going at it. And last night, like I said, Utah was up 3-1. That had the feel of a Game 7. That had the feel of an old school Eastern Conference game. The final score was 80-78 in a season where, since they've been in the bubble, people are putting up 80 points at halftime. You know what I mean? So it was crazy because while they've been trading 40 and 50-point games the whole series, I don't know if it was fatigue or whatever, but that was not the case last night. Donovan Mitchell had 22 points. Jamal Murray had 17 points. Both of them shot poorly from the field. The best player really on the court was Jokic for Denver. Now, Denver, for the most part, was pasting Utah for the first 2.5 quarters, and Utah made a furious rally. The game was tied with less than a minute left. Jokic made a bucket to put him up 80-78.
They finally get it to Mitchell. 10 on the shot clock. Had it back tapped, he lost it. The Nuggets come up with a defensive play. Murray, they missed the layup. Gobert got it. Mitchell hanging at the other end. 2 seconds to go for the win, and it rims out. Denver hangs on.
Final score, Utah 78, Nuggets 80. Let's go!
The disappointment etched across the face of Mitchell. And the respect from two guys that will be tied together for a long time.
And that was how the game ended. It was crazy because, you know, Gary Harris made a great play stripping Donovan Mitchell. Jamal Murray gets the ball and then darts, you know, to the other side of the court. But what he's doing is he actually is leading a fast break, and this is where experience and recognizing the situation in the game has to be better for Jamal Murray, because obviously you have a 2-point lead, you have the ball, it's under 10 seconds left. If you're gonna sprint to the front court, you know, don't try to lead a fast break of what you did not convert. You hold the ball, you get fouled, you put the game away on the free throw line. Luckily for them, Mike Conley's shot went in and out, because if he had made that shot and Utah had won that series, that would have been strictly on Jamal Murray for not thinking in that time period. But shout outs to both teams. It was a hell of a series. Utah, I'm sure, are going to be kicking themselves until the next season starts, because they were up 3-1. You know, they were up 3-1, and they were up 3-1 and had the Nuggets down 15 in Game 5, which could have been a closeout game for them. And Jamal Murray and Jokic brought them back. So shout out to the Nuggets for overcoming a 3-1 deficit. Now let's look at matchups. They have to play the Clippers. So I'm sure the Clippers are happy that this series went 7 games, because it gave them a couple of extra days to rest. Let's see what Jamal Murray does with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see. Because he has been absolutely sensational. But the Clippers look like they're finding their groove. Of course, they put away the Mavericks in 6. Should have been 5, but you know, it is what it is. So now let's see that, because Denver is talented. Denver is very, very talented. They don't get the pub that, you know, most of these NBA teams do. Denver is not a major market when it comes to basketball. It's a football town. When you think of Denver in sports, the first thing you think about is the Broncos, not the Nuggets, not the Rockies, not the Avalanche. So, but Denver, the Nuggets have talent. Jamal Murray is emerging as a superstar. Hell, he's getting paid like it. Just signed a 5-year, $170 million contract. He's getting paid like it. Jokic is made arguably the best center in the league. If you can get Michael Porter Jr. to play the way he played at the beginning of the restart games, then you have a problem. Now that's in the Western Conference. Now there's another Game 7 tonight in the Western Conference between Oklahoma City and Houston. Man, I'm going to tell you, the tension is so tough, you couldn't cut it with a fucking machete. You just couldn't. Because it's so many storylines to this. You know, on Houston's end, you got Westbrook and Harden. Westbrook really blew the game for them in Game 6 with all of the turnovers. He just played a little too reckless, and sometimes he tends to do that. And Harden, again, he wilts sometimes at the big moment. And I know they're saying, well, the coach should draw him the plays. Look, when you that dude, you have to say, give me the fucking ball and get out the way. I got this. But he doesn't do that enough. And the crazy thing is that, well, for one, if Houston loses this series, Mike D'Antoni ain't coming back. This notion of small ball, bruh, I don't care how many threes you shoot or how much quicker you're trying to be than the other team. PJ Tucker should not be your starting center. When he's 6'4", he should not be your starting center. This isn't high school. This is the NBA. PJ Tucker shouldn't be your starting center. Neither should Jeff Green. Neither should Robert Covington. And do you know how much of a bad look this would be on Russell Westbrook if he loses in the first round again? I mean, think about this. Russell Westbrook, ultimate competitor, ultra talented, but has not been out of the first round of the playoffs since Kevin Durant left. The last time Russell Westbrook was out of the first round was 2016. And since KD left, one and dones for Oklahoma City. And to make it even worse, he was traded from Houston for Chris Paul. He was traded to Houston for Chris Paul, and no expectations were set on the Thunder. This means Chris Paul has already won when it comes to who look or worse or who look better. Chris Paul will already have won, because when that trade happened, you're saying Oklahoma City is strictly going into rebuild mode. They're trading their stars for draft picks. They got rid of Paul George. They got rid of Russell Westbrook. And when Chris Paul was traded there, people were like, oh, well, he should demand to be traded. He should demand to be traded. He shouldn't even play a game there. And I looked at the lineup and saw Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Danilo Gallinari, Dennis Schroeder. They still had Steven Adams. I'm like, well, wait a minute, because Chris Paul, I believe that Oklahoma City would make the playoffs. I didn't think they would be a 5 seed. They finished with the same record as the Rockets. I thought maybe they would be a 6 seed at best, but more like a 7 seed. But Chris Paul, he does great when he's the only alpha dog on the team. That's always been the case, because he's beefing with Blake Griffin and the Clippers, and then with Houston, he ended up not getting along with Harden. But when he's the main alpha on the team, like he was when he was with New Orleans, he don't have no problems. And the teams usually overachieve. Oklahoma City has overachieved. But do you know how bad this would look on Russell Westbrook if he loses to his former team that hasn't gotten out of the first round of the playoffs since Kevin Durant left? And the other three years on Russell Westbrook's watch, they were one and done. Even years where they had home court in the first round. And it's not like he hasn't had teammates. They've gotten him Victor Oladipo. They got him Paul George. They got him Carmelo Anthony. And still one and done. This would look so bad on Russell Westbrook if they lose Game 7 tonight. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to look any worse on James Harden, because my personal belief is if James Harden is the best player on your team, you're not winning a championship. I've always felt that way. He will put up great stats, great numbers, but when it comes time to winning in May and June, he doesn't get it done. I don't believe he will get that done as being the best player on the team. I just don't. I mean, I don't see it in Houston. Maybe if in 3 years you want to try, if Russ and KD can patch things up, and Russ and KD and Harden jump on another team together with all of them being starters, they would all be around the 34 to 35-year-old range. But hey, we could see what happens. That would be, I think that would be pretty cool. But Westbrook and Harden, they not winning no title, especially not with that lineup, with that coach who doesn't really preach on defense. Harden has improved defensively. Houston has improved defensively, but they're too damn small. They too damn small. Straight up. And like I said, it's a win-win for Oklahoma City regardless. It's a win-win. So that should be very, 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 very interesting. And now as far as the Eastern Conference goes, the Eastern Conference second rounds, they're already set. They're already underway. And of course, the winner of Houston and Oklahoma City will play the Lakers, who have had another team that could definitely use the rest or the load management, whatever. So that's just, so I'm pretty sure LeBron and AD are happy about that. But in the East, their second round matchups have already started. I will start with the reigning defending champions, the Toronto Raptors. They may be in a bit of a pickle. They may be in a bit of a pickle. They're down 2-0. They've lost both games, quote unquote, home games, whatever. In the bubble, none of that matters. The only difference is the next game, they'll play in a different uniform and there'll be a different team sticker logo on the floor. That's it. Home court does not matter in these 2020 playoffs. But the Boston Celtics, hey, they've shown up. Now, a lot of people were saying after game one that we'll see, the Celtics may have their number. Okay. And Toronto was playing great, and then Marcus Smart and Kemba Walker just took over last night. Jason Tatum is a star. He is a franchise player, definitely. Jaylen Brown, they have I know everybody was saying, well, what are they going to do without Gordon Hayward? I didn't see Gordon Hayward's injury as being that bad of a thing because, one, you can get the ball in Kemba Walker's hands more. Tatum and Brown are good wing players. Marcus Smart is a good wing player. I didn't see the loss of Gordon Hayward as being a damning thing. Do you know that the Boston Celtics are undefeated in the playoffs? They swept the Philadelphia 76ers. They're up 2-0 on the Toronto Raptors. So the Raptors have to look at themselves in the mirror. I hope that they're fully engaged because I know a number of the players following the shooting of Jacob Blake just wanted to leave. So we shall see with that. We definitely shall see. And in the other series, game 2 of the Bucks and the Heat are tonight, Jimmy Butler. Did you see Jimmy Butler in game 1? 40 points, playoff career high. And Miami can really clamp down on defense. They're a scrappy bunch because Milwaukee scored 40 in the first quarter. 40. And I believe they scored maybe 61 points the rest of the game. 61, 63 points over the next 3 quarters. And Giannis only had, 16 points? 17 points? He only got up 12 shots. They did what Toronto did last year. They put up the wall on Giannis. And Giannis, he has to improve his shooting. And he was miserable from the free throw line. Chris Middleton showed up. Brook Lopez showed up for about 2 quarters. My issue with Brook Lopez is you're like 7'1". How the hell do you only have 1 rebound in the game? 1. How does that happen? If I was a coach, I would snatch his ass off of the court so quick. Look, if your big ass don't stop always camping out in the corner to shoot a 3 and get in the hole and get some rebounds, get us some extra possessions, get some paint points. What are you doing? Don't be big for nothing. Don't be a bum, a big uncoordinated motherfucker. Don't do that. So, and it's crazy because a lot of people think Miami is going to beat Milwaukee. They think they have the formula. Bam Adebayo, he was great. 10 points with 15 rebounds. That's why I'm like, nobody tell me. And now it's harder for big men to get rebounds in today's game because there's so many 3-point shots. Long shots lead to long rebounds. But Bam put in the work. Goran Dragic, people sleep on him. He's like a slightly lesser version of Manu Ginobili and Steve Nash put together. He was Steve Nash's backup in Phoenix for a while. A lot of people don't remember that. He has been an all-star before. A lot of people don't remember that. They have players. They definitely have players. In the Milwaukee Bucks, you have to get better guard play. Bledsoe didn't play. You maybe want to see what's going on with him because Milwaukee for 2 straight years has been the best team in the regular season. Giannis is coming up on free agency after next season. I'm going to say this, and I truly mean this from the bottom of my heart. As far as the Milwaukee Bucks are concerned, I don't want to see Giannis leave Milwaukee. I want to see the playing field more level when it comes to smaller markets. I don't want to see Giannis leave. I don't want to see Jamal Murray leave or Donovan Mitchell leave. I don't want to see Luka ain't going nowhere. I don't think Luka or Porzingis is going anywhere. I don't want to see Zion leave New Orleans. I want to see these smaller markets have these superstar players because it just levels the playing field. Everybody doesn't need to go to LA or Miami. I can't say New York because the Knicks don't get shit. Maybe Brooklyn. But I'm gonna say this. If the Bucks don't win it, not even if they get to the finals, if the Bucks don't win the title this year, this is what I'm doing if I'm Milwaukee's front office. I'm putting together a package that includes Eric Bledsoe, George Hill, maybe Pat Connaughton, and a couple of draft picks, and I'm putting that all together, and I'm calling Oklahoma City and saying, I'll give you this for Chris Paul. That's what I would do, because one of the problems with Milwaukee is that when the game gets tight, they don't know what to do to get a bucket, because in tight games, Giannis ain't bullying over everybody, and his jumper's not reliable. I'm putting together that package, and I'm begging Oklahoma City, give me Chris Paul. Because while Giannis is an alpha, I think if somebody as accomplished as Chris Paul, if he would come to his team, I think Giannis would just kind of more or less rear back and say, all right, I'll follow you. And he would be mostly needed in tight games in the fourth quarter. That is what I would do if I was the Milwaukee Bucks. So the NBA playoffs, the games are back on full speed ahead. We had the 3 days of boycotting, and I was proud of the players, and it shocked me because, not only was it the NBA, Major League Baseball, they canceled games. The NHL, hockey, they canceled games. That was amazing. That was amazing. Tennis players have stepped out. Golf players have stepped out. We're tired of the bullshit. We're tired of it. So I was just proud of everybody having one united front. But next week is the NF of the L, baby. The NF of the L. The NFL starts a week from tomorrow. And what I will do with my show next week is I will have my picks. I will have my dark horse teams. I might even come up with a new segment. But yes, football is back, and here's something that's funny. Trump, 4-5, actually called the presidents of the Big Ten, I guess the person who's in charge of the Big Ten, trying to convince them that they should play football, where the student athletes should be able to play their fall sports in football. Out of everything that's going on in this country, and this is an election year, and it's been a crazy, damn near horrifying year, where you have absolutely sucked when it comes to actually being a leader. You're worried about the Big Ten playing football. Good luck with that. But you ain't slick. You ain't slick, dude. You're trying to get those voters in Ohio. You're trying to get those voters in Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania on your side. Why the hell? Because you, out of all that's going on, you can't be worried about Big Ten playing football. You worried about those states. You worried about those states. That's what that is. And like I said, good luck with that. Good luck with that, because honestly, to me, the Big Ten and the Pac-12 are doing the right thing, to be honest, because with this pandemic still out here, I think that's crazy to ask quote-unquote student athletes to go out there and risk their health, something long-term, particularly for free. That's my biggest issue, for free. And those players are still missing the boat. There's, hashtag we want to play. They're still missing the boat. I mean, I would say, listen, we want to play, but we need to be compensated. I'm putting my health on the line so y'all can make money. I need to be compensated for my sacrifice. Well, Brandon, are you saying exploit the NCAA for financial purposes? That's exactly what I'm saying. Exploit the NCAA for financial purposes because the NCAA have been exploiting you for decades as quote-unquote student athletes. Yes, absolutely. Get the money. If you're going to play during a pandemic and you're putting your health on the line, get paid for it. Like the Young Dolph song says, get paid, young nigga, get paid. Come on now. They are still totally missing the boat on that. Oh, man. 2020, man. 2020. So, with that being said, with a buzzer. All right. I was in D.C. this past weekend. And it was pretty cool, pretty fun. Ended up going to the MGM. And I told my wife, I said, that's crazy that we was just in D.C. and then the passing of John Thompson. Like, that's absolutely bananas. But, again, rest in peace to the great ones. And, by the way, it was just announced yesterday that the Fresh Prince show will do a reunion. The episode is actually going to get taped on September 10th because that was and that's next week. That was the day that the very first episode was originally recorded, September 10th, 1990. So that will be 30 years to the day. And it's going to be on HBO Max, the streaming network. And I think that's pretty cool. Everybody's going to be there except, of course, for Uncle Phil, James Avery, who passed away a few years ago. But I'm interested to see that. That should be cool. But in the meantime, I will definitely be back at you next week. I'm going to be talking some football, making predictions, making choices. But it's your boy, Brandon Brevon Towns. If you haven't hit that subscription button, definitely hit that subscribe button. Become part of the Sports Plus Life family. I'm out this buh. Peace.